Hello and welcome back to the Rekt Capital channel, and welcome to today's video update. We're going to be looking at Bitcoin, the market leaders in Ethereum and Litecoin, and also Miner Capitulation about that potential second wave that could very well be on the horizon. So let's dive right into the video. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Let's dive right into the ascending triangle on Bitcoin's price action. On the daily time frame, we have this ascending triangle right over here. It's the orange pattern, and we've been speaking about this in the previous video as well, that we have a sandwiching of price action, price compression below this immediate supply zone, and this is the immediate support that we seem to see this supply zone weighing down on price. And I published my previous video in this candle, roughly speaking, so we saw a tapping of liquidity at lower prices, and then we saw a bounce but straight into this supply zone. The next daily candle didn't press past the supply zone, and now we're seeing a rejection once again from the supply zone. So essentially speaking, this supply zone does have a lot of sellers. The sellers, the bears, they're very strong at around this region. So we are seeing this price compression in this region right now, and the supply zone is weighing down on price against this support, and this support may not hold any longer as long as these sellers continue to be strong. And this ties in with our weekly view on Bitcoin, because if we just look at the 7,200 level, this is where we saw the weekly close occur, and the weekly close closed below 7,200. So now we're finally seeing a little bit of a rejection, and this ties in with this short-term supply zone weighing down on price. But in any case, we've seen a lot of rejection from 7,200, which is a very key level, and as long as Bitcoin's price remains below 7,200, that's where our focus should be, because Bitcoin is in an area of outsized return on investment for potential Bitcoin investors. So a rejection from this point, and essentially that's what we're looking for. We're looking for continuation, bearish continuation following this rejection on the weekly time frame, and that continuation would likely lead to this green demand area. So nothing has changed on the higher time frame, and the same thing goes for Ethereum. Ethereum is just holding here. Of course, if Bitcoin sees that continuation, then Ethereum is probably going to lose this local support, this local trend line, and this trend line essentially showcases to us that Bitcoin, or at least Ethereum in this case, is holding the bottom of its ascending triangle, which is good news. But of course, if Bitcoin experiences some downside, then Ethereum would probably go to this trend line right over here, and I'm just watching for price strength confirmation at either of these trend lines. Same thing on Litecoin, not much has changed. It is good that we're seeing price strength confirmation at $40.80. This is what we need to hold this week for Litecoin to be able to enjoy some additional upside next week. So it's very important to see price strength confirmation over here. Of course, some wicking below this level is quite familiar. It isn't out of the ordinary. So if that does happen, then that's perfectly fine, as long as we see that weekly close above $40.80. And if that happens, and if even Bitcoin experiences some additional downside and it manages to pull Litecoin to around these levels, it's all about this close right over here. Whatever Bitcoin does, Litecoin needs to close above this $40.80 level for further upside to be a possibility. That's all Litecoin needs to focus on right now. But what I wanted to talk to you guys in this video is the Bitcoin hash rate chart, because recently we've seen an all-time high in the Bitcoin hash rate, which is fantastic news, because that means that miners are profitable, they're enjoying good business, and of course the Bitcoin network is being more efficient. And this efficiency has been caused by the difficulty adjustment, which we spoke about a few weeks ago. This grand difficulty adjustment allowed for miners to become profitable again, for miners to want to conduct their business, make the Bitcoin blockchain more efficient, and this efficiency is of course evident in the block interval. So it is around 10 minutes that it takes to mine a block on the Bitcoin blockchain, but we actually saw these levels reach 12.5 minutes around a month ago. So this sort of outlier in terms of how long it takes to mine a block, this tends to precede a reversal in price. And we did get a reversal in price, and it does precede a return to 10 minutes, which is roughly the average. So essentially speaking, we are now in the average. It does take around 10 minutes to mine a block. And now we have that efficiency in the Bitcoin blockchain, which is evident in the all-time high of the hash rate, which was evidently caused by the difficulty adjustment. But this difficulty adjustment is very important because, as you guys know, it tends to precede reversals in price to the downside, and this is at least the case in the previous difficulty adjustments in this area right over here and in this area as well. And this isn't even a foreign concept to you guys, because this is something I was speaking about a few weeks ago, and it still is very much relevant because Bitcoin hasn't been able to press past 7,200. It hasn't been able to experience further upside, and that just means that there is a bit of weakness there. Bulls aren't as strong to provide that liquidity to press price to higher levels, and this ties in with some shortcomings in the Bitcoin blockchain. And what I mean by that is just this relationship between Bitcoin difficulty and the fact that we tend to see further downside, which ties in with the fact that we tend to see hash rate diminish. If Bitcoin's price declines towards the downside, hash rate does diminish, and we've seen this already in the short term. We've seen this happen. And if we just cycle here to the short-term chart, this right over here, this red candle has had an immense impact on hash rate so far, right? Because from the all-time high, we've seen a decline in hash rate, which just shows to you that if Bitcoin's price is going down, then miners aren't too happy to be mining Bitcoin because it's not getting profitable for them, or at least for a small portion of them. But of course, if we see stronger price corrections as a result of these difficulty adjustments, then we might see a lot of those miners start to not feel profitable and be profitable. And then we start to see a lot of fear come in to the market, and miners are no longer profitable. And this is essentially what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that second wave of capitulation, which could tie in with this next potential major low for Bitcoin. And at the moment, of course, you guys know that a higher low is quite likely when we consider net unrealized profit and loss. The higher low right over here at these lows, at these capitulation lows for miners right over here as well. And this is essentially unrealized profit and loss in the Bitcoin blockchain. So is the Bitcoin blockchain in a state of profit, or is it in a state of loss? And of course, this ties in with whether miners are capitulating or not. So if we're seeing this capitulation right over here and over here and over here as well, and even in this area as well, that just showcases to us that that capitulation is translating into fear and, of course, a bad profitability, a lack of profitability for miners as well. So that's essentially something that I'm watching for. I am watching for a higher low to develop. And as you guys can see over here, this is a curling down. It's like an exhausting in the uptrend before proceeding a further continuation to the downside in price, or at least the unrealized profit and loss on the network. And this is very strongly correlated to Bitcoin's price action, which is why we're seeing this sort of curling down. So whatever Bitcoin's price action will do, it will also show up here in terms of miner capitulation. And this is essentially miner capitulation. This here as well, this here as well. So we might not get this sort of capitulation where we see extreme fear, extremely low Bitcoin price levels, and by the same token, extreme periods where there is just an extreme lack of profitability for miners. I don't think we'll see that, but we will see a second wave of miner capitulation, which will vary in the degree of severity. Because this was extreme capitulation over here, and I don't think it's going to be extreme again, which is why we might see that higher low. So a second wave which would resemble something like this, a higher low over here, right? It wouldn't be as extreme as this point or this point, but it would still be capitulation. just a different type of capitulation, which might translate into a higher low for Bitcoin's price itself. But nonetheless, it is minor capitulation, and nonetheless, a correction in Bitcoin's price action would lead to another major low, even if it is a higher low. And that's something we need to watch out for, because a higher low for Bitcoin would be fantastic. It would be fantastic to see that on the unrealized profit and loss in the Bitcoin blockchain, to just see that miners are capitulating, but not as much as before. That would be great to see, and it would be great to see a higher low of this sort of price action, just like this, at around these levels right over here. So if that's in this green area, if that's a bit lower in the form of a wick, somewhere like this, whatever the case may be, that higher low is quite important. Even if it were a double bottom, that would be great as well. But I'm looking for this higher low, because we're seeing a higher low be a very important thing on the on-chain analytics that I was just showcasing to you guys. So this could be a very important thing to watch out for on Bitcoin's price as well. And that's about it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching today. Please consider dropping a like if you found value in this video, and of course subscribe for more videos like this in the future. I'm more than happy to be making them. Wishing you a fantastic day. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak soon.